Have you ever imagined something as small as salt could lead to a revolution? Oh yes. Salt characterized colonial manipulation and economic oppression during the British rule in 1930s in India. The British authorities imposed the notorious salt tax, which made it illegal for Indians to collect or sell their own salt that they had historically produced and even traded outside of India before the British authorities ever stepped foot in India. The British targeted the commodity because it was very vital to everyone, and this means if they got grip of it, they would make more money. Now, before I give you more details about how the Salt March of 1930s all started and progressed in India, let us first revisit the history of how the British gained control over trade in India. People were arrested because of salt, something that the Indian people would never have imagined would happen. The British began to establish their presence in India through its East India Company in 1608 with its first trade post in Surat. Between 17th and 18th century, the East India Company expanded its influence in India through strategic military victories, such as the Battle of Plassey in 1757 and the Battle of Buxar in 1764, gaining significant control over Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. In these two battles, people were deleted, leading to fear among the Indian people, and the British authorities saw an opportunity to solidify. India Company engaged in a range of trade activities, among them high valuable commodities, for example spices like pepper, cloves, nutmeg and cinnamon, and textiles such as cotton and silk, tea and precious stones. It also dealt in saltpeter and cultivated opium, which later led to opium export wars between India and China. Although the British did not discover salt in India because Indians had a long history of producing salt for local consumption and trade, it forcefully controlled this vital resource within Indian territory. It sounds, the Indian people, led by several prominent figures who had been advocating for autonomy and independence from the British rule, like Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, led the Salt March. In early 1930, Mahatma Gandhi announced that he was going to break the salt laws to peacefully demonstrate his dissatisfaction with the control of the commodity. Gandhi marched for a whole 240 miles while making stops on the way to create awareness among the public, appeal for more participants and draw attention of the international community to the injustices of the British rule in India. When the march began, Gandhi was only followed by 78 people, and as they marched, thousands of followers joined them. Sometimes the marches lasted 10 miles a day, and along the way they held meetings and gave speeches attracting more followers. It turned from the salt issue to promoting the need for freedom from British rule that was oppressive. Gandhi promoted self-reliance and the morality around resisting oppression as he marched to the coastal village Dandi to break the salt laws. On April 6, 1930, Gandhi and his massive followers reached the coastal village of Dandi, and when they reached there, he fearlessly picked up a lump of natural salt from the seashore, breaking the salt laws. People picked more salt, and similar protests spread across the country, and more people began making their own salt and boycotted the British salt, refusing to pay. Unbelievable, and the world watched in shock as people of India protested against salt tax, and they all sympathized. The international media supported the cause of the Indian people by promoting their moral strength and resilience to the oppressive rule. The international pressure eroded the legitimacy of the British rule in India, which left the British government with no choice but to bow to the international pressure. It negotiated with the Indian people and signed an agreement to release political prisoners and allow the Indian people to produce salt for personal use. This agreement only achieved freedom to produce and consume salt in their own territories freely, but did not really give them